What's up, everybody? This is Grant, that cause artist. Welcome to another episode of the Disruptors for Good podcast. Today, we're going to chat with Cullen Schwarz, the founder of DoneGood, on building the Amazon for social impact brands and launching an ethical Prime Day alternative. In 2015, Cullen decided to change his career path from working in politics on Capitol Hill, even worked with the Obama administration, and began to be just very frustrated about the political process and the possibility of impacting lives through that mechanism. So he decided to start DoneGood, which its sole mission is to make it very easy to do good by shopping. And he created a marketplace where you could shop hundreds of brands that all have a social impact foundation within them. In the US, we spend $130 trillion buying stuff every year. If we can just transfer some of that shopping to more ethical and sustainable brands, I think we'll be very, very happy and very surprised of the positive impact that would make, not only in local communities, but around the world, to our environment. There's so many ancillary factors of good that would come from that transfer of wealth, sort of from big companies, big corporations to small business, sustainable business, ethical brands who are doing the little things right. And I think it's a really powerful platform, and our ability as consumers, as it's just never been as powerful as it is now. So they also launched Better Days, which is, we all know, sort of Amazon Prime Day, where there's sort of deep discounts on Amazon on all kind of products. So starting today through Wednesday, there's going to be 40% off so many amazing sustainable brands on DoneGood. It's a great opportunity for all of us to get introduced to these companies, to support them and what they're doing, and really just make an impact. So I hope you guys get to check out Better Days, do some shopping this week, really support some of the causes and get some great products. I mean, it's just such an opportunity for all of us to get involved. Hope you enjoy the conversation with Cullen. Amazing journey, amazing product he's built. Shout out to that team. Hope you guys enjoy the day and have a great week. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye. Usually how I like to start these conversations is about the journey, man. And this seems to be a long time coming that we talk to you and talk about DoneGood, because you're kind of a veteran in this space at this point, I think. And sort
Isn't
of
that crazy?
It's no, right? It started there's been some marketplaces that have come and gone, right, in this space. And I think you kind of built one of the top ones and kind of have gone through the hurdles and really broke through the wall a little bit, so to speak, and are building out.
Well, or are breaking.
Are breaking, right? We're still early in all of this for all of us. Yeah.
Well, back in college, which is, I'm a little bit older. I'll date myself a little bit. That was like the turn of the century, like
sure.
99 to 03. I worked for a bunch of different progressive campus organizations, but the one I really got into and eventually got into the national leadership of was a group called United Students Against Sweatshops. And what we would do is we would get universities across the country to put a code of conduct in their apparel contracts, especially if it's a bigger school, whatever. You get a lot of companies bidding, to make the university's licensed apparel, all that clothing that has the university's name and logo on it.
Right.
Somebody's making it. And those are big dollar, at a big school, that's a big dollar contract. Companies really want those contracts. It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So turned out like a lot of that clothing was being made in, could be particularly awful conditions, poverty wages and unsafe and child labor potentially. And so we get universities to have a code of conduct that would essentially say, any company bidding has to demonstrate that they're not producing in sweatshops. And so, no child labor, traffic labor, relatively safe working conditions, at least just above poverty wages, a decent wage, and some basic protections at least. And so then companies would improve their practices and create more of a market for companies with better practices and reward companies with better practices. And that was, to me, just like exposure to this idea that like consumer demand can really create positive social and environmental change. And I thought, well, if you can get a bunch of consumers, individual consumers, to do the same thing, it has that same power and that same effect. And I knew, just for me personally, I wanted to know where the stuff I was getting was coming from. I wanted to know the money I was spending, right? Like let alone the impact of the world that we can collectively make, but also just me as a human. I want to know that like I'm not working for things and then the money I'm spending is working against me. I'm giving my money to an organization that's perpetuating things that that I don't believe in, right? And so, but it was, really hard, especially at that time, was, impossible to find, like ethically made stuff in a lot of cases.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I had that idea though way back then, and I thought, yeah, at some point, like I really want to do something with this idea that consumer spending can be the world's most powerful force for change. I mean, right? Like
100%.
Consumer spending is 70% of the U.S. economy, right?
It's a fact. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and we always cite this stat, Americans gave $400 billion to charity last year. We spent 325 times more than that buying stuff, right? So like those of us who care about social and environmental impact, like more of us, I just feel like have got to be working on that, that $130 trillion we all spend buying stuff, because it's just a huge wealth of resources. And if that, just by virtue of us spending it and getting what we need to buy anyway, can reduce poverty and fight climate change and make the world better, then that's huge. So I always had that idea. But then, as it happens, when you get out of school, I ended up getting a job in like politics. So I spent, a decade with that as my career, coming up, working on campaigns, and then ended up working on Capitol Hill and was a communications director for a couple of U.S. senators. And then I worked in the Obama administration, and that was all, good. I was grateful for those opportunities, and I enjoyed it sometimes, and and it was cool and interesting, and we felt like you're fighting a good fight. Sure. But man, also at the same time, as you can imagine, like sometimes you get to where you feel like you're kind of banging your head against the wall, just fighting the other side to an endless tie,
Right.
Like it's really hard to get.
It's a bad soccer game.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to
end in a tie.
Yeah, exactly. It's 0-0, at the end. And there's no shootouts, Yeah. And so, we worked on like this one piece of legislation. It would take 3 years to get passed. And at the end of the day, it's so watered down that like, you're like, yeah, I don't know, this is better than the status quo by a little bit. It's still shitty policy. So we took some shitty policy and made it a little less shitty. And that's, sorry I don't know if you got a beeper.
I love it. No, I love it. Shoot away.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. Yeah, it's podcast. We had on the network, right? So, all right, cool. Yeah, so like, wow, 3 years of my life to make one area of federal policy slightly less shitty. Like, I guess that's progress,
Right.
So I stopped and I came back to this idea, about wanting to try to help unleash the power of consumer spending, because I do think that's the hope when it comes to big issues like poverty, climate change. Like, unfortunately, I think elections are still really important. Everyone should make their plan, vote early, only vote once, despite what Trump says, but vote once and make sure you do it. Because look, it's critically important for a lot of reasons. At the same time, I don't see big sweeping change coming out of DC anytime soon. That's going to be what we need to solve climate change. What I do think is that this new, this new paradigm that says business's sole purpose isn't just to maximize profit and exploit whatever they can, that instead we expect businesses to be a force for good in the world. That will be the most important ideological shift of this century, right? And that change is occurring. I think the number one force for that to propel that will be shifting consumer demand, which again is happening, but we're trying to continue to increase that shift in sentiment, that increasing conscious consumerism. And then in order to do that, though, what you have to do is you have to make it as easy as possible for as many people as possible to make the better choice, to choose to give their money to the more ethical and sustainable brand more of the time. It's got to be super easy. Everybody is strapped for time, and stuff's difficult. Like, look, just the easier you make something, the more likely that's the action that's going to be taken. And so that's behind everything that we do. Finally, I, made the jump to quit my career and start DoneGood. I actually talked with a buddy about it, and we applied to the Harvard Innovation Lab, the university's incubator up there, and we got into the program. So it was like, oh, well, now this thing that I've been thinking about for 10 years or whatever.
You got to build it now.
now we got to do it, And but it was good because in that time, the social impact space had matured enough where
there was enough brands to make it work. Yeah,
exactly, right. You had more choices, and not just more brands, but I think brands who are increasingly understanding that they have to make a really good, cool product. Like I think
100%.
Ethical fashion, even maybe as recently as like 10 years ago, it just had this reputation that was like, bunch of burlap sacks, a bunch of hippie stuff, granola stuff. And now, like, there's a wide range of brands making all kinds of fashion products to meet different stuff. And it's actually cool and fashionable and, like, or if it's athletic gear, it actually is like high performance. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it expands even across fashion now, right? I mean,
well, I was going to say is that it's
tons of stuff, anything on the shelf,
yes,
right? Anything on
totally.
the shelf, essentially.
Now, I'd say some of our better selling stuff is even like bed sheets and kitchen stuff and home goods and things like that. Because and that's been really exciting. Just even the last like 5 years since we've been doing this, like the space has expanded so that you have all kinds of businesses, candles and inflatable solar powered camping lights, or like, I mean,
shout out Empowered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is a DoneGood partner, available on DoneGood.co. Yeah. But like really cool and interesting stuff that really does run the gamut. I mean, that's the thing. We're trying to be like what Forbes called us, which is like the Amazon for social good, where we just are trying to just continue to add brands and products so that it really can be everything that you need to buy, and that your money is supporting your beliefs and that the money you're spending is helping make the world better instead of worse, and I know, we're not to where the space isn't to where it's like everything you need to buy. Like there's no ethical flat screen TV yet, you know what I mean? You got to mine some rare earth minerals and stuff. And
hey, I always tell Fairphone, man, they need to just start making the Fair Watch and the Fair TV. They got the supply chain to do it, man. Well, so when I get over, they're based in Amsterdam. So when I get over there, I'm gonna be going over there and talking to them about this.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. I know, and that's what I mean. Like it really is expanding into all these other verticals, and it's really cool to see. And then it means that we can add more kinds of products in different categories so that we get closer to that Amazon for social good, and it really does become everything that you want to buy. But even now, I mean, it's like food, coffee too. I mean, all sorts of stuff that we do have on the site already. So we've got a lot of different kinds of brands, and it's just really exciting that all these different kinds of brands exist. So man. Anyway, that's 5 years ago we're doing the whole lab, and we went through a lot of twists and turns. I mean, I don't know how much detail you want me to get into.
I mean, how was going through the incubator? What was that process like? I mean, what did come out of that? Was it a MVP? Was it an actual product, or was it a roadmap to build a product?
First, a roadmap and figuring out, so basically we had this idea that, we're going to use consumer spending as a force for good and help people, get the things they need to buy while also making the world better. But when we started, the first model was more like a Yelp style app for local brick and mortar stores, and in the greater Boston area. But for a number of reasons, I mean, I could go on that later.
Right.
Transition, but basically, we learned a lot. We always try to be super user focused and what is actually, helping people and what is actually, something people are going to use. And I mean, just quickly, a couple of the problems with that Yelp style model, we realized that the use case for that is just so often like, well, I'm young on foot in a city, I'm maybe using public transportation, and I'm in this part of town and I'm looking for a place to get lunch right now. And so, or it's like my girlfriend or wife and I are going out on Friday night and we want to go to a nice Italian place. You know what I mean? It's like specific stuff. Or you and me are going to meet for coffee for business, but it's going to be either near my office or yours or somewhere in between. And so that first Yelp style app, we had 1,200 businesses on the app in the greater Boston area, but only some portion of those were restaurants. And then if you want a nice Italian restaurant, like shit, man, I mean, we might have one, but it's in a different part of town that you're not interested in going to. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff like that. Or like, we got a couple really cool coffee shops that are composting everything in the place and paying good wages. I don't know, are you going to suggest to your business, meeting person that you don't know super well, that you both should go 5 miles in the opposite directions to meet? Right. These people aren't doing that. Plus, it was going to be really hard to scale. Like it was a lot of work just to get the businesses mapped in Boston, and totally. And there just wasn't enough impact. Like to get to those 1,200 businesses, we had to put any business on the app that had one of our 8 sort of DoneGood badges, right? So that would mean some are paying living wages and empowering workers, some are super eco-friendly, but some are just locally owned, or some are just selling organic products, or some are, you know what I mean? And like, I gotta tell you, I mean, the whole buy local thing, I have mixed feelings about it because we would just run into a lot of locally owned businesses that are still paying minimum wage, using styrofoam, not recycling. We had one guy say, "I hope you fail," he's a florist who flies his flowers in from China every morning. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
Like, where people are getting paid low. So it's like local. I mean, yeah, that guy lives here, but those flowers aren't local. The people picking the flowers aren't local. They're being paid a terrible wage, and the environmental impact of flying those flowers across the ocean.
It's unreal.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, well, buy local. I don't know, man. I'd rather get some ethical flowers from another town over. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so that was the thing too. We said, you know, a lot of these businesses now we're asking people to walk 2 miles out of the way. And if we're not even that cool of a business, and, you know, it's not even the kind of businesses we really like, we're excited about ourselves. Like, I wouldn't walk the extra 2 miles. You know what I'm saying? I'm the founder of the company. So we said, you know, we've got to do something different. And that's when we pivoted to more e-commerce, because then we could really work with like the cream of the crop brands who are killing it on worker issues and environmental issues and investing in communities and that are true mission-driven social enterprises across the board. Because then we can work with companies across the country. We don't have to scale up city by city. And then, we said, well, what's the environmental impact of e-commerce versus local? Like I tell you, we did a lot of research on that. And actually, e-commerce is often a lower environmental impact because, again, you go to that small boutique clothing shop. Well, they still had the product shipped in from somewhere to get to their shop, and the 100%. Cotton was grown in some other country and the factory is grown in some other country. By the time you ship all this stuff through the supply chain around the world, then ship it to that store. Plus, the big thing is, if you drive your car to that store, that's actually the biggest part of the environmental footprint. In all of that supply chain making that product, you driving your car is the biggest portion of that whole shopping experience to get to get from the farm to the factory to your house. If you drove your car there, that's the number one environmental impact. So if you get it ordered to your house, a lot of times it's similar or lower environmental impact to order online. And now we actually offset all the carbon emissions of having the package shipped to your house too. So we make sure that part of it's carbon neutral. So I think it's actually in many cases more environmentally friendly than it is to shop local. Now, if it was, the cotton farm was in your town and the factory was in your town and the shops in your town, right, and you walked there, okay, that would be more environmentally friendly, but that's just usually not how it goes, Yeah, so we took a look at all that and we said, no, this actually is going to be more impactful. We can work with true social enterprises, and instead of asking people to walk 2 miles out of their way, they're at their laptop or on their phone, and we're just, asking them to move their mouse or their thumb a few inches to the right. You know what I mean? Yep. And so that's when it comes to like, when you really want to affect behavior change, you got to ask for easy behavior change to get more of it, like we were talking about, right? So we also thought we could be more successful because the companies we're working with have better impact, and the behavior change we're asking from users is not to go 2 miles, but to go a couple inches.
How many brands are now on the platform, roughly?
We have 90 some on our site, on our marketplace site. We have affiliate partnerships with over like 100 more. So I mean 200 some in our network altogether. But we launched a new marketplace site with a new system before. So that was just part of the journey, I guess, right? We pivoted from the app, the Yelp style app. First thing we built for e-commerce was our Chrome plugin, which we still do.
Loved it. No, that's how I found out about you guys. I remember that. It was awesome.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, that's for people who don't know, that's like you get that once on the Google Chrome store, and you got it on your laptop. And then anytime that you're on Amazon or you're searching for products on Google or you go to other big name retailer sites, it'll show the ethical alternative brand that has what you're looking for along the side of your screen. So again, we're just asking you to move your mouse a few inches to the right. And so, yeah, for that, we have like 200 some brands on the plugin ecosystem. Sometime later did launch our own e-commerce site, but they're basically like a referral site. You could kind of like a product search engine. You could search for the products, check out the products, but then when you went to buy the product, you'd click and you'd buy it on our partner brand site, which was good for us to start with because it was easier for us to execute and less time intensive and very easy for our partner brands. But from a user experience perspective, if you want to buy 3 things from 3 of our brands, now you got to go to 3 different websites and check out 3 different times. Well, that's a drag, man. You know what I mean? Like, again, if everything we're trying to do is to make it as easy as possible for people to engage in the behavior change and as easy as possible to choose the more ethical and eco-friendly brand, we got to take away that source of friction. So then we have recently transitioned to our new marketplace site that is truly more like an Amazon for social good, because you can, like normal, fill up your cart with 3, 4, or 5 products And then you just check out on our site, all the information saved, just a couple of clicks, right? So just that's been the evolution, is like always trying to make it as easy as possible for people. Cause I think that's the key, in the space to get, like I said, more people to make the choice to support social impact brands more of the time. Then, that's key. Reduce the friction, make it super easy, make it super convenient, make it as, take as little of people's time as possible, because we're all, like I said, we're all busy, or we all think we are. We're all, like we value our time a lot, and so quicker, easier you make it, the better things are going to be.
And I love not the transitions and not necessarily the pivots, but just the maturity of starting with, a plugin, right? Step one, then creating
the Yelp app first.
The Yelp app first, and then figuring out that obviously wasn't the scalable route, right? So then the Chrome plugin, which to me was, when I saw it, I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is a tiny game changer that enhances the movement a little bit, right?
Yep.
And we go to the affiliate marketplace, which is you're able to build that infrastructure a lot quicker, where you don't own the checkout part of it. That's a whole nother step you have to do. And now finally transitioning into an actual total ecosystem where the consumer pays through you, right? And then they are sort of have that easy access where they know they can go to one place and get their products, now that they're not getting emails from 50 brands, right? From 50 separate places.
That's the other thing, right? Exactly.
It's huge to have that one area where you can go to get everything. So I think, look, man, the maturity of the company is just it's in a great spot, I think.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it has been a journey, man. It's always trying to, learn from our users and find out, the pain points that first they have in their lives, but as they're trying to look for these kind of companies, but then with us, that's the next, right? Like, and how do we continually reduce those pain points, and how do we continue to, just to make it easier? People want to do the right thing, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in this space, a lot of times, I hear people sometimes talk about, like, man, I wish like more people cared more. And I'm like, man, a lot of people care an awful lot. It's incumbent on us, right? Like, when do you get action? You get action when the level of care is equal to or outweighs the burden of taking action, right? So you could say, people should care more and take more time and effort and do more work. Or I think it's incumbent on us in this space to actually make things easier so that the burden of acting matches their level of care. So trying to up their, get them to say, you should be sacrificing a lot and spending a ton of time and effort because this is worth it. Like, yeah, sure. But also, let's just make it easier. We just got to keep making it easier all the time.
So this is also coming out of the incubator. You have to start this thing, right? And what was the process of going out and raising money? Like, did you have a product already out when you raised like a first small round? Like, I think a lot of times it's, especially for the social entrepreneurship realm, it's a bit hard to talk to investors, right? Because it's not the traditional sort of company model, right? It's like, oh wait, you're giving away some of your margin, right? Or giving away some of your So how was it early on, like talking to investors, right, and raising money? Was that very, very difficult? Or did you just, the plan was so sick and like the vision was so good that was it not as hard as you thought it would be?
No, it was not the latter. No, I think that's really interesting too. And the social impact investment space has matured some too. So I think, right, social impact, there's pros and cons, right? Like, the cons are the pros are like, I think it's easier to attract talent because last time we filled a position, we're still a pretty small team, and but like last time we filled a position, like, man, we just had like hundreds of applicants, and we,
that's great.
Didn't spend money advertising or whatever, because like people want to do mission driven work, they want to feel like, we just are increasingly realize that like where we work is like, that it's synonymous for how I'm going to choose to spend the majority of my time on earth.
It's a big decision, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so like more people realize like, it's like, I think all of this, right? Like the social impact space, all of it is the breaking down of the brick wall that used to exist between like the sort of non-profit and non-economic part of our lives, and then the economic for-profit part of our lives, right? It used to just be like non-profits do good, businesses maximize profit. and we volunteer for causes we believe in our free time, and we donate our money. But where we're going to work is where we can make the most money and just do whatever job, and we're going to buy the cheapest thing. It was like somehow in the economic part of our lives, which is like I think the most impactful part of our lives, like then it's like, well, you don't have to be moral in that realm because that's business. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
so
that wall,
weird.
Yeah. Well, and I think that wall is crumbling down more and more where people are saying, wait a minute, I think businesses do have a huge impact on the world. And if we're going to solve problems like climate change and global poverty, we've got to change how businesses are doing business. And also then that means, yeah, I should give my money to those businesses instead of just buying the cheapest, fastest thing or whatever. And though people, realizing like, yeah, and where do I want to spend my time? What am I working toward? Like I can get a paycheck, but man, like what is the output? What is really the impact I'm having with my time and my effort? So yeah, I think, social impact brands have those kinds of advantages, and even like with consumers, you have somewhat of an advantage because, people want to spend their money and support good things. At the same time, you got disadvantages like sometimes the products cost more because, doing things in the responsible way. Some, paying people higher wages, like that can cost more. And
sure.
and then raising money. I mean, look, if you're raising with traditional investors, well, what do they want? They want a 10x return in 3 to 5 years. And, like something with what we're doing, it's not something that has made a large number of people's lives way easier or made products way cheaper. Like, you know what I mean? We haven't invented a new invention that is going to help people to do whatever. You know what I mean? Like it ain't Uber. It ain't, something that is necessarily just like, oh, easy. And, you're making huge margins and, oh my God, this is just going to, a term that's used in the investment world, extract money from people's wallets. I mean, that's really how they talk about it. This is like saying, hey, we're trying to make it as easy as possible, but for like a little bit of behavior change, you can support something that's better for the world. And so it's not a, super quick, easy, slam dunk, like everyone's going to make money hand over fist and get super rich at it. I do just always want to say, as much as like, I also do think we're making people's lives better in that these products, ethically made products, also do, I always try to remind people this, tend to be higher quality too, because stuff that's like handmade with care by an artisan, you know what I mean? Like who's being paid a good wage does tend to be more high quality than stuff that's mass produced in some giant factory overseas or whatever. I mean, there's a reason that the fast fashion is making 4 times as much many articles of clothing than they were in the 90s. It's because they all have us buying more stuff. And so I do always want to tell people when they weigh that cost benefit and they say, oh, well, geez, this ethically made thing costs more. Yeah, but you're going to have it for 5 years and you're going to love it, as opposed to like this $10 thing you got at H&M that they have built on purpose to wear out quickly and to go out of style quickly, to keep you on that consumption hamster wheel of buying more shit. So I do always just want to leave that plug that I do think you can often save money in the long run. Like buying the cheaper thing isn't always the best deal if you have to buy more of it over time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, that all said, but you asked me about talking to investors, so I should get back to your actual question. But so, I mean, it was, I think then, but then there are impact investors who are going to, be more ready to invest based on your mission. But like, I mean, it's weird, man. There's impact investors are not a monolith. There's impact investors who still want to make that 10x return in 3 to 5 years. Right. They just want to have invested it in, green technology or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But they still want that same return, and, you ain't going to get it. And then others who are more impact focused, the impact wing of impact investing. Like we've got some of those too, who are like, we've got this one fund, Boston Impact Initiative, who's involved, where they're like over the breadth of their portfolio, they're trying to make a 4% return. Like they're really trying to keep as much money. I met one of the principals of that organization. She was at an impact investor conference telling the rest of those impact investors that if they're trying to make traditional 10x returns, they're extracting capital from impact, and they should be trying to make lower returns. I was like, I like this woman.
I like, yes, she gets it. She gets it. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
So, you're talking to just that whole wide spectrum of impact investors. And yeah, man, I mean, it's, look, we raised money at various steps of the way. We raised some money off of the Yelp. We still built the product. We built the Yelp, the Yelp app, and we raised a few $100,000, after building that and, demonstrating that it was getting some usage in the Boston area.
Right.
Then we pivoted to the plugin, And that got us a ton of national press because, you know, I think it's an interesting, cool thing.
Absolutely.
And so we raised some more money then, and then we launched the website and we raised some more money then. So we've been raising in tranches kind of over time as we go. We also, you know, though, like, I mean, as we've gone on, I mean, and this is where, you know, I think people get in this, like, kind of this mindset, like, well, there's a well-worn path, you raise your 500 grand seed, and then for pre-seed, and then you raise 2 million seed, and then you raise your 5 million Series A, and then your 10 million Series B, and like that's the right fit for every business. And the longer I've done this too, I tell people to really think about whether that is the right path for them, and whether raising money at all is the right thing. Like, you don't have to raise money at all. Some businesses aren't necessarily like that hockey stick growth type of thing where they're going to yield a big return on equity investment, and so. You know, it's like
most businesses aren't like that.
Most businesses aren't, and I'd say a lot of impact businesses aren't. Of
course, yeah, sure.
And so, you know, some of it is like, what can we, you know, do you start it as a lifestyle business and say, hey man, yeah, like this isn't going to be a thing that extracts money from wallets and isn't going to become a $1 billion thing, or it might not. I don't know. Look, but like if it starts to take off like that organically, then we can raise the money as opposed to raising it up front. You know. And if it doesn't, then don't take on that investment and that, you know, just keep it as a business, run it as a business, man, you know, like a thing that actually like is profitable and makes money. And that can be good and okay. And then can still grow. And then, like I said, if you get to that point where you are like, holy cow, now if we had an infusion of capital, now we've figured things out. And if we have that infusion of capital, we can grow. So I just encourage people to really think through that. Cause I think once you get, especially if you get into like an incubator type environment, even if it's like at Harvard, which is more education focused rather than trying to create the next, you know, the next unicorn or whatever. Even there though, you know, there is just sort of that the herd mentality that's like, yeah, well, this is what you do. And then you go out and you raise your money. And then you get these other companies that are like that you work with, oh, they raise some money. And so then it's like, well, damn man, like they're moving along and they're doing well, and then we got to raise money too, you know, right? Like, it's just, that's not the reason to raise money. The reason to raise money is we've got a core of a good business here, and we can scale it. Well, although I will say, you know what, now just to contradict myself, there is another school of thinking though that's like, yeah, but if you can get someone to give you $2 million up front, you might be able to reach that success point. You know, whereas if you don't, and then you don't, you know, like
the tough thing with that is that that's a lot of pressure, and if your vision doesn't come to fruition, it's going to be hard for you to ever really
you're on the clock. That's the thing. Once you raise that money, then you've got X runway, and you've got to raise another round or become profitable by the end of that runway, or it's lights out. And so
then you just become then you almost become like a nonprofit. You're just always raising money, and it's like, well, if that's your main focus, then who's focusing on like the actually operation of the business? Right?
Exactly. Well, and raising that next round does get increasingly hard, because with each successive round, it's less about, you know, your story and your ability to, you know, tell a story about why you'll have a good business, and it's a little bit more about like, but have you done that?
The execution, right? Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
So I encourage people to think about that. Like, you know, running a business that you know, you grow organically and bootstrap is a great way to go, especially in impact. And, you know, you're coming from a guy who has raised money, but it's just about, you know, we haven't followed that traditional path though either, right? Like, we've raised the rounds when we've needed to raise the rounds, when we thought that round could get us to a new place, and not trying to just raise a bunch of money just because, you know. So,
and I know I want to touch on it just for a quick second here, because I know you did a raise through equity crowdfunding, right?
Yeah.
Which enables sort of this idea to kind of raise when you want to, right? And when you sort of need to. Yep. What was I know we had talked about it before, but for everybody else, what was your experience like with that? I know it's becoming a little bit more famous now of this is a possibility for startups, especially in the impact space, to kind of go out and raise from people, right? Not investors. Yep. In some cases, some people are investors, but a lot of people are, especially you have customers, man. I tell people all the time, it's going to be easier to raise from your customers than it is from people you don't know. Yeah. You know, and so how was that experience with sort of doing the equity raise?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, overall, I think it is it's a positive development, just, you know, in the world, not just for impact, but
100%.
You know, I mean, we just had these arcane rules in place that said, unless you're an accredited investor, you know, you can't really make equity investments in startups. So that meant, you know, you either had to make over $200,000 a year, or your net worth, not including your house, was over $1 million. Yep. So it precluded a lot of people from participating. Yeah, and then you generally would have to raise, whatever, even in your earlier angel rounds, people writing $25,000 or $50,000 checks or whatever. So not everybody can afford to hand that over to a startup, So then you're going around talking to a bunch of rich people, And in terms of more diversity in startup founders and more opportunities for companies that are person of color led or women led, I mean, I would get it. Like I'd go around, as a white guy, but I'd look around and I'd say, man, yeah, like a lot of the people with this money who are investing in startups, they're a bunch, it's older white guys. In a lot of the rooms I would go visit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I mean, equity crowdfunding, opens up. Plus, then the other thing was like, well, so wait, you can give a company money on Kickstarter, but you can't own share. You can't give them the money and then get shares in return. Like it's a little ludicrous,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, we got on, and it was the platform we were on was $500 minimum, and so people could invest with $500, which for a lot of people still ain't nothing, but it's like a lot different than 25 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
And especially, I think it is different. We're a consumer-facing business, so we did have a lot of consumers, a lot of passionate fans who would make that investment. I think if you're not B2C, if you're B2B and you have less of a smaller number of consumers, a little funner, because we did, I think, raise a good portion. Now that said, we also raised a good portion from the crowdfunding platform's existing pool of investors who like to go out there and invest in different companies.
Absolutely.
So it was a mix. I think we did like 40% from our users and 60% from them or whatever.
That's still pretty good, man. Yeah,
and in 45 days, we raised like 350 grand. And at the same time, I also was raising offline from traditional angel investors, and it was roughly about another 350 grand.
Yeah.
Now those platforms they take their fees, man.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean,
so it's 7.5% of the cash you raise goes to the platform, plus 5% of that amount in equity. So they're they're on your cap table and they own shares or whatever. But the good thing is all those other investors are rolled up so that you do have just one entity on your cap table.
It's a clean cap table, yeah.
Right, exactly. Otherwise, I've got I can't remember how many investors, but hundreds.
Yeah.
So I mean, at $500 a pop, I mean, some would give more. I mean, we'd raise 5, 10, 20 grand, from some people. I think one guy came in at 50,
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, through the platform,
Yeah, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
So it's really, really great. Yeah. But so, overall it was good. I mean, we do, so as not to talk bad about people, I guess, I'll say it in a positive instead. We didn't have a great experience with the company, the platform that we worked with. So I don't know, I guess I could say who it is, but I'll just say we recommend WeFunder now. We didn't work with them, but they're now a certified B Corp. So especially for the impact space, I would check them out first. Their fees are lower. They weren't a certified B Corp at the time. So at the time we were like, well, we'll just go with the biggest one. I guess that's the biggest audience and the more chance to have it be a successful raise, and we can drive our followers to any platform. So what's the difference? I don't know. We kind of just, then shortly after that, WeFunder became a B Corp, and I actually met some of the people there at the B Corp national retreat, and their fees are a little bit lower. And I was like, oh man, if we do it again, we'll do a WeFunder. So I will plug them just because look, they've taken the step of becoming a certified B Corp. So they're, social impact business themselves. So I think if people are looking into that, one I definitely think people should, I recommend it. People should look into it.
Absolutely.
And recommend WeFunder if you do.
So let's talk a little bit about Better Days, because you guys have looked at Prime Day and say, hey, I think we can make an alternative to it. Right. Is that essentially the case for it?
Well, if we're the Amazon for social good, Amazon's got Prime Day. We said last year, hey, well, we should have the social impact alternative to Prime Day. And so we started Better Days because, it's still the same principle. We get a bunch of social impact brands. This year, I think we got like 45 or so. We're all going to be offering really great discounts.
That's great, man.
Yeah. And so, it's like, look, just like Prime Day, you can still get a better deal, but you're also creating better days, for people on the planet with your purchase. So that's one reason we call it Better Days. The other, just because it's better than Prime Day. They got Prime Day, they got Better Days.
Is this gonna run parallel to?
Well, the weird thing is because COVID, like so many things this year, usually Prime Day is in July. So last year we started it. We thought of it like a week before, what I mean? We're like, hey, we should have, so like we pulled something together really quickly, This year we got more lead time and we planned it well. I think we, it's going to be a lot better. And easier to use and all this, because always we're like, how do we make it easier to find these deals on our site,
Yep.
So, but then, July rolled around and Amazon, because it's usually in July. So July rolled around though, and Amazon, I think, they were still selling just, thermometers and sanitary wipes and hand sanitizer and face masks and shit. And which we also do have on our site now too. If you're looking for your new face mask or your hand sanitizer, but it's ethically made and eco-friendly. So if I can do just a little shameless plug there.
Hell yeah, all the time, man.
I appreciate it. But so in July they were like, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to delay it. So they kept delaying it, and now apparently they said it was likely in Q4, and so everyone said, well, it's probably in October. Now I think they've said likely the first week of October. But as they were getting together, finally at some point in August, we said, you know what? We're just going to, who cares what Amazon's doing? We're going to plan ours for the last week of September. So September 28th through September 30th on DoneGood.co on our site. We got these, 40 some of our partner brands offering really great discounts. And just for those 3 days, 28th through the 30th, which I think is also 1 day longer. Usually Prime Day started as 1 day. Then they've expanded to 2 days. We're like, well, we'll do 3. You know what I mean? So Amazon still hasn't said for sure. They keep saying like October, maybe early October, but like, whatever. Yeah. Last year we ran it right on the same days, This year we just said, well, look, we'll do it at the end of September. And if they run it sometime in October, that's fine. Everyone will have come and got everything they needed from DoneGood first, and not need to go to Amazon. Yeah, I don't know. Usually it's the same time, or I don't know. It was only the second annual. Last year was the same time. This year, who knows if they're even doing it for sure. So ours are anyway. Better Days is September.
So do you think that it'll keep going?
Yeah, I know. We plan to make it an annual thing. It's a cool thing that people really liked last year, and that's the thing, man. Like when we talk about making it easier for people, the other thing is trying to make ethical more affordable wherever we can.
You have to do it, man. Yeah, I think I think what the beautiful thing about this is that it'll get new customers in. Right? Yeah, that's 25-30% off, whatever it may be.
40.
Yeah, 40. I mean, that's gonna really allow people to kind of open their wallet, right, and really get into the game and kind of understand it, and maybe it'll introduce them to a brand and they'll read about it and kind of understand why it might cost $20 more, right? But look what happens when you do so.
Well, yeah, and now look, this week when it's 40, September 28th through 30th, when it's 40% off, now you can get it for the same price as that unethically made thing anyway. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so try that out. It helps people get to know us, helps people get to know these brands, helps people get to know the conscious consumer movement, and that's a big thing that we've learned. I mean, conscious consumer is not a monolith either, right? There's just a whole spectrum of people who, to varying degrees, want to do the right thing and want to spend their time doing things that are impactful, want to spend their money on things that are impactful. And also, like I say, strapped for time, but also people are on budgets. That's just the reality. Like a lot of the people who use DoneGood, we found through our research, like we got a lot of people who work for nonprofits or work for social enterprises or are teachers or nurses, you know what I mean? And so like, not exceedingly wealthy. Like we're choosing to do things that are good for the world. So sometimes that means it's not getting as rich,
Yeah.
And so like people just do have budgets, constraints on their time and constraints on their money. And I think those of us in this space have to be realistic about that, right? It can't just be like, hey, this is good for the world. We have to say, no, look, it's good for the world. And it's higher quality, so it is better for you in the long run. And we made it super easy to find and super quick to use. And we're working with these companies to provide discounts to help make it as affordable as possible and fit in your budget as best we can. Now we're talking. You know what I mean? Now you're finally getting somewhere.
No,
Like conscious consumers are still looking at they still have all the same factors in their purchasing decisions that every other regular consumer has. So if you're trying to sell, ethical fashion, you're trying to sell someone a shirt, people are still going to look and they have to say, does the shirt fit? What's the return policy on the shirt? Is that shirt within my budget? And speaking of budget, we have found that conscious consumers will spend more, maybe like not even like percentages more, maybe double or triple, as long as it's within their floor and their ceiling of what they'll spend, right? So I mean, what I mean by the floor is when we talk to our users, when they see a $10 thing at H&M, they're like, you see a hoodie for $10, and you're like, that something terrible was done to make that. Right? They instinctively understand that, like. That company's probably still making a profit, or at least not losing money on that hoodie. And so that means somebody got paid, a nickel an hour or whatever, right? And the environmental impact. So they don't want anything that approaches that floor. And that's too cheap, right?
Yep.
At the same time, they might know that they can get that hoodie for $24 at H&M, but they'll still spend $60 to get it from our site. But what they won't do, which is like, so they'll pay over double because they know that it was made with living wages and organic materials and in a zero waste facility, and like a company that really is trying to do good for the world and make their business work. So yeah, they'll pay for that. And then, like I said, higher quality, lasts longer, better for them too, stuff like that. So they'll pay more. But what they won't do is they won't spend over their ceiling, right? Like they won't spend $100 on any hoodie because no hoodie just is worth it to them. They'd rather do something else with that $100. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you have to recognize those realities that everybody is trying to check the boxes. Does it fit? What's the return policy? Is it my budget? Is it my style? Is it cool? Do I think it's cool? Like, people aren't going to wear something they don't think is cool. They just won't buy it. They might not buy the unethical thing. They just won't buy anything then until they find an ethical thing somewhere at some point later. And all of those things, will I get it in time by the time I need it?
Right, right.
All those things are still there. Plus, I want it to be environmentally responsible and socially responsible. And so you just have extra boxes to check, but you still got to check all those other boxes. And I think we have to be realistic about that. We can't just say, well, this is more ethical. Yeah, and why is it better quality? And why is it in my budget? And why is it cool? And why is it comfortable? And what's your return policy? You still got to do all
that. But I think that consumers can also take maybe a step back and say, look, like, nothing's going to be perfect, right? Yes. I mean, we're not at that point yet. We're still so young in all of this that, like, read about the brand itself, right? Like, just like, is the story like amazing? Do you relate with the founder, right? Like, you almost buy it to support what they're doing too sometimes. And also that, like, look, yeah, maybe it's not like all around from the entire ecosystem of it being made to, like, I'm sure there's some boxes you can't check off, right? But like, nothing's going to be up to the par like that quite yet. Right. So it's like, and there's still incredible things that you can be done, even if you don't check all those boxes. It doesn't mean you're not doing incredible things.
Well, yeah. And if you're talking about checking those boxes on social impact, I mean, like, what are even all the boxes?
Exactly. We're not even, 100%.
There are a million infinite boxes that could be checked. And that's something, like, when we first get into this, we thought, like, oh yeah, we'll give every company a score on all these different categories and like an overall DoneGood score, an algorithm, an equation. And we're like, man, what gets a better environmental score? Like, this one company that's like making their stuff out of like organic eucalyptus and in a zero waste facility that's run on clean energy and water recycling and all this, or this really little company that's like a few people that are like hand making dog collars out of cowboy boots. You know what I mean? Like, upcycle out of old stuff. So they're taking waste out of the waste stream, and the only carbon footprint is the lights that are on, at their house while they're making it. Like, which one gets better environmental score? We're like, man, we can't do that. We're just going to tell the stories of the brands and let people decide. But so that being said, no, I think we're, to check all the boxes, but I think all the brands on DoneGood, we are very confident are very substantially better than the big name counterparts in their industry on environment, on people and planet issues. That's environment and worker issues. They are crushing it overall, whether it's all the boxes, checking all the boxes or whatever. But when I'm talking about checking boxes too, I'm talking about for the consumer that needs to check their boxes. Like, we want, people to buy these products and support these brands because they're amazing, good for the world. They got amazing stories, amazing people behind them. And like, we, as the world, we need businesses like these to be successful, because that's what's going to change the paradigm and save the world. Honestly, I just believe it. That's why I quit my career to do all this.
Listen, I always say that, unfortunately, our consumer dollars are worth much more than our vote is.
Yes,
and that's just how we are set up right now.
Which is why I quit politics to do this. To get back on
you are the perfect example. Yes.
Well, but what I'm saying is, we can't expect consumers to make the more ethical and sustainable choice just because it's more ethical and sustainable.
Yeah, I agree. The product has to
the
be
founders got
legit.
Cool story. Yes, the product, we got to help check their other boxes. It's cool and it's comfortable and it's in their budget. And all of that stuff. Like, so I had a mentor who at the Harvard iLab who said, there's a lot of businesses who want to be the social impact blank. Like, we started out the social impact Yelp. Now we're the social impact Amazon. But she said, whatever that blank is, you still got to be really good at the blank. Like, if you're going to be a social impact Yelp, is your app as user-friendly?
Yeah, you can't just say it. You can't just say it.
Well, it's like, then your app needs to be as user-friendly as Yelp and help solve that use case as good as Yelp or better. And then, you'll get people using it just because it's a good app and also creating social impact. Right now, that's why everything we do is to try to make as easy and seamless shopping experience as possible. If we're going to be social impact Amazon, we got to try to be as easy to shop on as Amazon, or easy, you know. And then in whatever social impact kind of thing, if you're making hoodies, make a damn good hoodie, man.
Make a damn good hoodie,
comfortable,
man.
Cool looking, affordable, like as affordable as you can. Again, people will pay more. They're just not going to pay above their ceiling. But yeah, man, like whatever that blank is, we're filling the blank. The social impact of blank got to be awesome at the blank. And I think as the whole movement has come to understand that more in the last 10 years, maybe the last 5 years. And you got more people that are like making really good products, not just how it was in like 2006 when like the few ethical fashion brands where everybody thought, it was like hippie stuff, burlap sacks, skirt, all this stuff. Not comfortable, not good, not cool, not fashionable. Ethical fashion that ain't fashionable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now more people are like, really making really great products,
high quality stuff,
good at the blank, high quality, cool, and just good on its own right. And also doing good for the world. And that's the key. That's when the space really grows.
I want to chat a little bit. We can end on this too. Is a little bit about what do you see from the consumer standpoint? Like, one, is it mostly women that gravitate toward DoneGood, right? What are the purchasing trends that you're seeing? Like right now, obviously you said masks and sort of the sort of things around COVID right now, but maybe even before that happened, was there certain trends that you see like people liking and gravitate toward to more than other products in the social space?
Well, yeah, like I said, right now everything's different because COVID. Yep. So we're selling a lot of, look, whatever we sell is whatever our partner brands sell, right?
Sure.
And so, but a lot of the apparel companies that we work with transition to making face masks. So we're selling a lot of face masks. Well, I mean, unfortunately, we all have to wear them. But fortunately, I'm glad people are buying them and wearing them.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I need to wear the damn mask, get us through all this. But so yeah, I mean, we've been selling that, hand sanitizer, things like that. Home goods is actually like the fastest growing segment in e-commerce generally, or at least it has been over the last few years. And we see the same thing on our site. Like we sell a lot of bed sheets and comforters, like bed and bath towels and kitchen supplies and things like that now. And I think that maybe because like those take fewer boxes to check, right? Like you don't have to worry as much that your bed sheets are cool looking. Like, I don't know, they're white or they're gray or they're blue.
Right. Yeah.
And in terms of like, well, will it fit right? Look, it's queen size. Yeah, they fit
it's
on
just a measurement.
Queen size. They fit on the queen size bed. So like, I think, like when it has those fewer factors, you're taking away boxes that people need to check. Well, I don't have to worry about style and fit anymore. So now it's easier for me to make the more ethical and sustainable choice because I now have, fewer things to worry about, right? So yeah, we see a lot of that. We still do a lot of fashion, a lot of clothing. During COVID times, we've been trying to stock more like coffee and things like that because we had seen during COVID times that like, some of the more discretionary spends, like a nice sweater or something, that's gone down a little bit here recently. But yeah, overall, I mean, more, pre-COVID, I think, a trend in terms of, products is just the home goods, both in terms of, I mean, it's rising on our site, it's rising on e-commerce, and I think it's like we were talking about earlier, it's expanded just the ethical business, the social impact business space has expanded beyond fashion into home goods in particular, as well as a lot of other products. So I think those are some of the trends. And then in terms of demographics, women tend to visit our site and buy from us more. So guys, we got some catching up to do, in terms of making our spending more ethical and sustainable. The age group we find a lot of like 25 to 40-year-old women tends to be the most. But we get a lot of like 55 and up women sharing about us on Facebook.
Great. Yeah.
And we do, we get folks. I do think that like we tend to get less like college kids than you might think and I think like college kids have less discretionary spending. You know what I mean?
Yep, totally.
And don't have to buy work clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like you can buy sweats and whatever a lot of the time. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably different for a lot of ethical brands depending on what they're selling and all that. But that's what we tend to find is that it really is across the spectrum. We do have a lot of guys shopping on the site and people of all ages. But if you want to know the core, it's been like 25 to 40-year-old women, a plurality at least.
Quickly from the B2B side, if brands want to actually get on the platform, what's the process?
There's a couple ways. I mean, brands can just apply directly on our site. So if you go to DoneGood.co, there's a link, click on the contact us, and then there's a link to apply. And then, we'll run through a process to make sure that you meet our, social and environmental impact criteria. But then it's really easy to get set up. I mean, and it has to be, we're working with brands that have an e-commerce site already, because then we have the technology to just plug into their site, create an API a link, and just basically whatever products are running on their site, those products automatically run on our site too. So it's super easy. And that's part of the thing too, right? It's like, we also need to make this, is we've been talking about making it easy as possible for users. But we've really worked hard to make it super easy for brands too, which is why originally we started with that model where we're the referral model, where we're kicking people to their sites to check out, because once you introduce the checkout on our site, now we're handing money, you know what I mean? Like, that. And we have to know that their products, we can't be selling stuff on our site that's out of stock on theirs, but we don't want to be having to them to call us and let us know their inventory and have it be all manual. Like, we had to get to a point where we could make that technology be super automated, right? And so that's, we didn't fully become, a marketplace site, the Amazon type site with the checkout on our site, until we knew we could make it super automated and easy for our partners. Because what do we do all this for? To help them be more successful, right? To help our users spend their money in a way they can feel good about and make a difference with their spending dollars. But also, I mean, if they're doing that, then if we're helping to make these brands more successful, so we have to make sure that we're not taking a ton of their time either, because they're trying to grow our business. This has to be passive revenue for them, additional revenue that they wouldn't already get. Right. And without having to put that much work in, that's the value proposition. That's the value we create for them. And if we're not doing that, and that's what we never charge any upfront fees. We take a percentage of each sale, because that way, then whatever those partner brands are paying us is commensurate with the amount of value that we're providing them, the amount of sales we're making for them. So it's $0 to start, and we made the process super easy. Like, there's the application to get on in the social impact portion. After that, it's like 10 minutes to hook up. You know what I mean? Yep. And even in that application process on social impact, we've tried to make that both where we can assure that it's, stringent enough, and that we can be able to tell our users this is a good, ethical, environmentally friendly brand. At the same time, we can't have that go for months on end and have that take a ton of time from these businesses. Because again, we've got to make it easy for them to participate, so that it's a little bit of time up front, and no money up front. And then after that, we're just making more sales for you, and you don't have to do any work for them. And then we'll take a percentage, but then again, you're still getting revenue over and above what you otherwise would. And that way, we're always creating value. We're always helping to grow the social impact movement, always helping these social enterprises be more successful. Because if we're taking more in fees than we're providing them in sales, then what the hell's the point? That's not why that's not how I got into doing this.
Well, amazing, my man. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. It's been a long time coming. And it's been fun to watch the maturation of the company and all the layers it's gone through, and I think it's finally at an amazing place, and it's a great point in time to be where you're at. And for any brand out there, it's a no-brainer, right? I think that you need to be on the platform, and for consumers, if there was a better marketplace out there, I would know about it in the social impact space. So
that's nice, man.
Yeah, man. So I would just say,
and coming from you, because I believe that it's true what you just said, you would know about it. And so, man, it's nice for a guy as steeped in all this stuff as you to say that means a lot, man. And we just, I will say this, we still ain't perfect. We still got a lot to go. We're still working a lot. But we have really tried to focus on that, easy to use for people, easy to use for our brands, and really tried to always, these conscious capitalism principles of always creating value for all of our stakeholders. I mean, we work really hard at it, I know that for sure. So I appreciate you saying that, man. It's really nice of you to say.
We'll have a great rest of the year, man. And then obviously have a great rest of the, few years down the line, hopefully here to come, the growth ahead. So